Hi everyone, this is Nicole with Titans of CNC Academy, and in this video I'm going to show you how to program the TITAN-10M for the Tormach. So looking at our part, you can see that the top surface is sloped, it's got an angle to it. If we were to start with this side, it would make it really hard to hold for the second side. So we're going to start with the bottom and then do the sloped surface as a second op. So to start out, we need to set up our stock. So I'm going to come up to setup, down to new setup. I want to change our orientation to select Z-axis plane and X-axis. And we're going to select the bottom surface of our part for our Z-axis. And I'm just going to use this back edge as our X-axis. I want to change our origin to model box point, and we're just going to select the back left edge of our part. Next, in our stock tab, I want to make sure our stock offset mode is set to add stock to all sides. Now when we're looking at the dimensions of our part, we can see the width in X is 8 inches. Now I know that my stock size is 8.1, so I'm going to add the difference between negative X and positive X. And I'm going to do the same thing for Y. Perfect. And the same thing for Z. I know my stock size is 1 inch. I'm going to do 0.142 for our negative, and I'll do 0.02 for our positive. That gets us pretty close. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now the next thing we need to do is start roughing out our part. So to do this, I'm going to use a 3D adaptive toolpath, and we're going to use a 1/2 inch end mill. So we're going to be running this at 4,000 RPM with a feed rate of 25 inches per minute. I'm just going to set all of these to 25. In the geometry tab, I don't really need to select anything, but I am going to uncheck rest machining since we haven't already started machining anything yet. In our heights tab, I want to change everything to model top. I'm going to go ahead and leave my bottom height set to model bottom. And I'm just going to add an offset of negative 0.02. In our passes tab, I want to set our optimal load to 0.025. And I'm going to set our maximum roughing step down. I'm going to do 0.9. And I'm going to go ahead and check the box that says flat area detection. For our stock to leave, I'm going to set that to 5 thou. And in our linking tab, I'm going to change our retraction policy to minimum retraction. I'm going to change our maximum stay down distance to 8 inches. We can go ahead and set our minimum stay down clearance to 0.01, and our stay down level will be 70%. The no engagement feed rate will set to 90 inches per minute, and for our ramp type, I want to set that to plunge. We can go ahead and put in a clearance of 0.05 and then click OK. So you can see the tool is going to drop down, and it's going to start roughing out the outer profile of our part. Then it's going to start coming up to the second level and start roughing out around these pegs. So the next thing we need to do is actually face the top of these islands. So to do that, we're going to use a 2D toolpath called Trace. But in order to do that, we actually need to draw in the contour that we're going to use. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to come up to where it says Manufacture in the upper left corner. And we're going to drop down to Design. Now once we're in here, I'm going to open a sketch. And I'm just going to select the top of one of the islands. So now I'm going to just start by drawing a line. So I'm going to choose line, and I want to place it right in the center of that first island. And I'm just going to bring the line out. I want to make sure I'm past the center of the last one. So anywhere in this area is fine. And then I can go ahead and click Escape. Perfect. So that is going to be our toolpath for facing these islands. So I'm going to hit Finish Sketch. And I'm going to come back up to where it says Design in the upper left corner. And I'm going to drop back down to Manufacture. So because we made changes to the model, it wants us to go ahead and regenerate the toolpath we created. So I'm just going to right click on our setup, select Generate, and wait for it to finish generating that. Perfect. Now we can go ahead and create our toolpath. So we're going to come up to 2D and we're going to select Trace. We're going to be using that same 1/2 inch flat end mill, and I'm going to be running with the same feeds and speeds. So I'm going to leave all of that the same. In the Geometry tab, I want to select the contour that we just created. And in the Heights tab, I want to set everything to Model Top. In our Passes tab, I want to change our pass extension to 0.5. This will make sure the tool starts off of the first island and ends off of the last one. In our linking tab, I don't really need to change anything. I'm just going to leave all of that to default and click OK. All right, perfect. So you can see the tool is just going to drop straight down and it's going to come across. You can see that it definitely starts off of the island and it will be ending off as well. So the next thing we need to do is finish this top surface here. So I'm going to use a 2D pocket toolpath to do that. But before we can begin, I need to actually set up a perimeter around our part where I want the tool to stay within. This will allow me to make sure that I can get the tool out to this edge and it won't leave any kind of a lip there. So once again, we're going to come up to where it says Manufacture and we're going to drop it down to Design. In here, I'm going to create a sketch on this top surface. And I just want to hit O on the keyboard for offset. And now we can select the outer profile of our part. And we just want to type 0.2. This will get the center of the tool close to the edge of our part, which will make it nice and clean. It won't have any kind of a lip on the edge. We'll go ahead and click OK. And we'll go ahead and click Finish Sketch. And now we can enter back into the Manufacture tab. So we can go ahead and come up to 2D and down to 2D Pocket. We're going to use that same 1/2 inch flat end mill. Let's go ahead and slow it down. We are doing a finishing pass. We'll just do 20 inches per minute for this one. In our Geometry tab, I want to select that outer contour that we created. And I also want to select the base of each of these islands. Perfect. So now the tool will stay within this boundary that we set. In our Heights tab, I'm going to set everything to Model Top. Except for our bottom height, I'm going to set to Selection. Now I want to select this top base of our part, but as you can see, it's trying to select the entire part when I'm doing that. Sometimes this is due to interference with a sketch. So what I can do to solve that is I can come up to, you can see on this tree up here where we have the Model tab, I want to expand that, and you can see our model is here. I want to open that up, and you can see sketches. I'm just going to turn them off temporarily, and that'll allow me to select this for our bottom height. Next, in our passes tab, I want to change our maximum step over to 0.3. And I'm going to set our radial stock to leave to 5 thou. And I'm going to go ahead and set our axial stock to leave to 0. In our linking tab, I'm going to set our maximum stay down distance. Let's do 20 inches. This way it'll make sure that tool stays down. Our leads look good. I'll leave those numbers in there. I'm going to set our ramp type to plunge. And we'll just do a clearance of 0.05. And then we can click OK. Alright, so you can see how the tool's going to drop down right here. Got that lead in there. And we can see the center of our tool is going to be along this tool path here, so it's definitely going to be hanging off the edge. That'll make sure that it doesn't leave any lip. The next thing we need to do is finish around our pegs. So we're going to use a 2D contour. So I'm going to come up to 2D, down to contour. We're going to use that same end mill. Let's go a little slower. Let's do 15 inches per minute to finish these guys out. In our geometry tab, I want to select the base of each of these pegs. And if you click the wrong thing, you can just click it again, hit the little trash can, that removes it. Next, in our heights tab, I want to change everything to model top. And for our bottom height offset, so we know the distance from this face to the top of these pegs is 0.2. We're just going to go slightly less than that, just a hair. This way it won't gouge into the surface of our part. So we'll do negative 0.1995. Perfect. It's just above the bottom. In our passes tab, I want to change our compensation type to wear. And we can go ahead and add a finish overlap of 10 thou. In our linking tab, I'm going to change our horizontal lead-in radius to 0.1. And then we can go ahead and click OK. Alright, that looks really good. You can see it's going to lead in here. It's going to come around. Then it's going to come up and over. the next thing we need to do is finish the outer profile of our part. So to do that, I'm actually just going to duplicate that last toolpath. I'm going to leave the tool, feeds and speeds all the same. In the geometry tab, I'm going to remove our current contour selection. I'm just going to select the top outer profile of our part. In our heights tab, everything's already set to model top. I'm going to just change our bottom height to model bottom, and I'm going to come negative 0.02. This way it'll be just below the bottom surface of our part, and it'll clean up nicely on the second side. In our passes tab, I don't really need to change anything. I think that looks good. And in our linking tab, I think everything in here looks good. We can go ahead and add an entry position of this front corner here. That way we can see the tool when it's coming down and around the part. Perfect, so you can see where the tool is going to drop down. It's going to come around our part, finishing that outer profile. So the next thing we need to start on is these pockets for the ISO grid. So to do that, we're going to start by drilling them all, and then we're going to open them up with an end mill. To start out by drilling them, we need to set some points where we want our drill to enter. So to do that, we want to start a sketch, and we're just going to draw in all of the points. So I'm going to come back up to the manufacturer tab in the upper left corner, and I'm going to drop it down to design. I'm going to go ahead and create a sketch, and I'm going to place it on this top surface. So we're just going to be using points, so I'm going to come up to the create tab, and I'm going to drop down to point. Now I'm going to place them roughly in the center. You can see kind of where it references the radiuses on these pockets, but I'm just going to center it in this one. For the next one, I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to kind of center it. And you can see when I'm mousing over the different reference points here, it'll actually kind of track them. So see how if I mouse over this point that I drew and then I mouse over this radius, I can actually come up and it'll reference both of those. So that makes it a little easier to make them more consistent, which will help. Perfect. Now that we have all of our points selected, I'm going to choose Finish Sketch, and I'm going to come back up to the Design tab and drop down to Manufacture. So we need to go ahead and regenerate our toolpaths. And we'll want to go ahead and make sure that we have our sketches turned on so that I can see those points. So we're going to come up to Drilling and choose Drill. I'm going to select the tool from our library. We're going to be using the 1/4 inch drill. 4,000 RPM with 18 inches per minute is fine. I'm going to go ahead and leave that. In our geometry tab, I want to make sure our hole mode is set to selected points. And while we're drilling these, we're going to go ahead and drill these 4 outer holes as well. We didn't really need to draw points in those. We can actually just select them and those points will pop up. So next I'm going to select all of the points in our pockets. All right, perfect. That looks great. Next, in our heights tab, I'm going to change our clearance and our retract height to model top. I'm going to change our feed height to selection. And once again, you can see that when I try to select, it's going to select the whole model. So I'm just going to turn off our sketches. I'm going to select that top face. I'm I'm going to do the same for our top height. I'm going to set it to selection and I'm going to choose that top face. For our bottom height, let's set that to model top and we'll just go negative 0.95. Perfect. That makes sure that all of our holes will be drilled below the bottom surface of our part. That should give enough room for our end mill to come down and finish those pockets out. Next, in our cycle tab, I'm going to change our cycle type to chip breaking with a partial retract. I'm going to do 0.075 for our pecking depth. For our minimum peck depth, I'll do 0.015. For the accumulated pecking depth, I'll do 1 inch. And we'll do a chip break distance of 10 thou. And click OK. So you can see the drill is going to just start on this side, drilling each hole, working its way down. And we got plenty of room for our end mill to come down and clean up all of these pockets. So the next thing we need to do is start opening up these pockets. So to do that, we're going to send a 1/4 inch end mill into the holes and we're going to open them up. So I'm going to use a 2D adaptive clearing toolpath. So we're going to select the tool from our library. It's going to be this 1/4 inch flat end mill. And we're going to be running that at 4,000 RPM and we'll do 15 inches per minute for our feed rate. It's kind of a tighter space and I think 15 will be a good number for this tool. In our geometry tab, I just want to select each contour for our pocket. So we're just going to do one at a time. Perfect. So now that we have all 26 pockets selected, I'm going to go on to our heights tab. In here, I'm going to change our clearance and our retract to model top. And then our top height, I'm going to set to selection and I'm going to just choose this top face. And for our bottom height, I'm going to set that to model bottom and we'll just go negative 0.03. Perfect. So that's definitely got enough clearance below the part. In our passes tab, I'm going to set our optimal load to 0.02. We're also going to check the box that says multiple depths. Since this is a smaller tool and this is kind of a tight space, I think it'll handle a little better if we do it in multiple depths instead of sending the tool all the way down. So we'll just do 0.4. We're going to go ahead and add a radial stock to leave of 5 thou. And we're going to set our axial stock to leave to 0. In our linking tab, I'm going to go ahead and set our retraction policy to minimum retraction. We'll do a max stay down distance of 20 inches. We'll set our stay down level to 70% and the non-engagement feed rate will be 90 inches per minute. I'm going to set our leads to 0.02 and for our ramp type, I'm going to set that to plunge. We want to tell it where we drilled our holes. So we're going to set our pre-drill positions. In order to do that, I need to toggle the sketches back on. So with the pre-drill positions highlighted blue, I'm just going to select each of these points. All right, so we should have 26, which we do, so that looks great. And now we can go ahead and click OK. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn off our sketches and we can take a look at that tool path. All right, so you can see how the tool is going to drop down here. It's going to do that 0.4 level. That looks really good. And then it's going to drop down and do the second level at the bottom. And we got plenty of clearance for when the tool lifts and drops down into another pocket. So the next thing we need to do is finish all of these pockets. So to do that, I'm going to come up to 2D and down to contour. We're going to use that same tool, same feeds and speeds. In the geometry tab, I'm going to just select each of these pockets. If you do accidentally select the wrong thing, just select the contour again and choose the little trash can. Perfect. Now that we have all of those selected, I'm going to go to our heights tab. In here, I want to change everything to model top. And then our bottom height, I'll just set to model bottom, and we'll do -0.03. Perfect, that looks good. In our passes tab, I'm going to change our compensation type to wear, and we want to check the box that says make sharp corners. This will allow the tool to get into these corners and make the correct radius. We can also go ahead and set a finish overlap of 10 thou. That way it won't leave any kind of a witness mark and it'll clean up nicely. In our linking tab, I'm going to go ahead and set our safe distance to 0.02. And I'm going to set our horizontal lead-in radius to 0.02. Our linear lead-in distance, we'll do 0.02. And then I'm going to set our vertical to 0. We don't need it in this case. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Alright, so you can see here where the tool leads in, it's going to walk around this pocket. It's going to come back up and move on to the next pocket. That looks super good. Looks like we have all of them selected. Do is chamfer our part. So to do that, I'm going to come up to 2D. I'm going to drop down to chamfer. I'm going to select the tool from the library. This time we're going to be using the 1/4 inch chamfer mill. So we're going to be running this at 4,000 RPM with 20 inches per minute for our feed rate. I'm going to go ahead and change all of these to 20. In our geometry tab, I want to go ahead and select the outer profile of our part, and then each of our pockets. Looks like I missed one. We're going to click that too. Okay, perfect. Now that we have all of our pockets and our outer profile selected, I'm going to go over to our heights tab. And here I want to change everything to model top, except our feed. I'm going to do selection. I'm going to choose this top base. I'm going to do the same for our top height and for our bottom height. Perfect. In our passes tab, I'm going to set our compensation type to wear. In my particular model that I have, I did not model in the chamfers, so I'm going to set my chamfer width to 0.01. For our chamfer tip offset, I'm just going to do 0.1. And for our chamfer clearance, we're going to do 0.01. In our linking tab, I'm going to set our horizontal lead-in radius to 0.02. I'm going to set our lead-in sweep angle to 45 degrees, and our linear lead-in distance will be 0.02. I'm going to set our vertical lead-in radius to 0. And then we can go ahead and click OK. Alright, that looks good. So you can see where the tool is going to come down and lead into our part. It's going to walk around that edge on each of our pockets. It's going to lift up and over, moving on to the next one. And you can see where the tool is going to drop down in this corner here to do the outer profile. So the last thing we need to do is put a chamfer on these pegs. So to do that, I'm going to duplicate that last toolpath and edit the new one. I'm going to leave all of our feeds and speeds the same. In our geometry tab, I want to remove our current contour selection, and I'm just going to select the outer profile of each of these little pegs. Perfect. In our heights tab, I want to make sure everything is set to model top. Okay, and in our passes tab, I can go ahead and change our chamfer tip offset to 0.05, and we'll do a clearance of 0. I know I'm not really at risk of hitting anything, so that should be good. In our linking tab, I'm not really going to change anything. I think that looks okay. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So the tool is going to drop down right here. You can see that 50 thou tip offset. It's going to come up and over and do the next one. After we simulate all of our tool paths, if you turn off the model body, you can actually see what the finished product really looks like. And so we can kind of just go around and inspect and make sure it all looks good. All right, so the programming for this part is now complete. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.